Stampers, it's Christine from Christine's Stamping Spot. Happy Monday to all of you. I hope you're having a great week. I'm really excited today to show you a new technique that I discovered just this past week. And it was from a fellow demonstrator named Linda Heller, who I believe is a US demonstrator. And it was revolving around this suite in our new mini catalog, the Sand and Sea suite, which is on page 40 of the mini. And this particular suite, I hadn't really paid a ton of attention to. I mean, I had seen it, and the more I looked at it, the more I liked it. But Linda showed a really great technique that caught my eye, and it involves the Pearlescent specialty paper, which is right here. And it looks like this. You get two 12 by 12 sheets in a package, and it's like a pearl, basically a pearl sheen type of paper. It's quite lightweight, and it's shimmery on both sides. And it also revolves around using the embossing folder and the stamp set and the dies. So I'll just quickly show you. This is the stamp set. It's called Friends Are Like Seashells, and the stamps are bigger than they are shown on the cover here because it's quite a large set. There are 23 pieces to it, and it has some really cute greetings in it as well. And then these are the dies. So in particular, it's this one that we're going to use today. And there's also some other little ones, like for sand dollars, for some of the seaweed, for a starfish. And then it also involves this embossing folder. It's called Seashells. It's a 3D embossing folder. And it looks like this when you open it. I don't know if you can really tell from this angle, but it's very, very cool. So we are going to play with some of this, and I want to show you this technique because I thought it was really, really neat. And her version is called, well, basically, I just wanted to show you first of all, I'll get ahead of myself here. This is what the pearlized paper looks like when it's embossed with that Seashells embossing folder. Like, is that not just so beautiful? There's so much detail that comes through in this embossing folder. And this is with the pearlescent paper that's in the mini. But Linda was thinking, well, what if I wanted to have different colors of pearlized or pearlescent paper? So she was thinking about it, and she came up with a trick, and she tried it, and voila, she came up with different colors. And so I started playing with her technique, and this is what I came up with. So these are a few other colors that I played with and that I ran through that embossing folder as well. So this one, I believe, is Petal Pink, and then we have Misty Moonlight, Blushing Bride. This is Coastal Cabana, I believe. And this one was kind of, or maybe this is the Misty Moonlight. Sorry, this is the Misty Moonlight, Coastal Cabana, Blushing Bride, Bermuda Bay, that's what that is, and then our Petal Pink. So I'm going to show you how we did this technique, and then we're going to put it into a card. So the trick to this is you choose a color of cardstock that you like. So for example, this is going to be our card when we're finished, and this is using the Misty Moonlight cardstock. Okay, so you're going to cut a piece of cardstock in Misty Moonlight by 5 1/4 by 4, because we're going to use it as a layer on our base, okay? And then the next thing you're going to need is a clear lid of some sort. We're also going to use our fantastic new blending brushes. This is what they look like. They actually come in a package of 3. And you guys, once you feel these, it is like a pillow. It is so soft and so supple. I just want to rub this all over my face because it feels so good. And I wish they could, you know, make this gigantic, and I would definitely use it as a pillow. It is so, so soft and wonderful. And so I had one that I was playing with today. And then the trick is our Frost White Shimmer Paint. Now we had this a while ago and then it disappeared, but it's back, I think, and it's still current. And it's basically like a shimmer paint. A paint is what it is. So what you're gonna do is on your clear lid, you're gonna pour out, this one's kind of running out here. So let me see if I have another one that I can use so I don't make a mess. I have another one here. Okay, so you're gonna pour out about a dime to a quarter size, and you can always add more. All right, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your blending brush and you're gonna dip it in that, and you're just gonna start to swirl. Swirl all over your cardstock, and just get that nice and covered with your blending brush. You can do circular motions, you can do straight motions. The only problem with me is I sometimes get my fingerprints on here, so I'll try not to do that. Maybe I will just use my bone folder to tack this down for me for a second. And just try to get as much covered as you can. And if there's a few lines in here, don't worry about it because it is gonna go through the embossing folder, all right? So basically that's all you're gonna do. You're just gonna add this nice shimmer, and can you see right away how shimmery that is? It's amazing. So this only takes a few minutes to dry. So just, you know, set that aside and let that dry. And with your blending brush, you can just clean it with water, run it under some nice warm water. You could also take some rubbing alcohol to it and clean that off. So I'll do that after we're finished here today, and then it's ready to go. And these can be used in any sort of ink. It's kind of like a big sponge dauber is what it is, but you have a little more grip on it and it covers a larger surface. So these are an amazing new tool that we have in the mini. Okay, so once your new pearlescent paper has dried, you're gonna put it into your embossing folder. All right, so you're just gonna lie it in like this with the Stampin' Up! Image on the top because that's gonna leave that nice impression, and run it through your die cutting machine. And when it comes out, it should look like this, a nice blue shimmer, and you can see all the detail in those amazing seashells. So isn't that just amazing? I just love it. Love it. I think it is one of the neatest techniques I've seen in a long, long time. And you can do this with any color of cardstock just to give it that little bit of shimmer. Okay, so now let's go through to assembling our card. So this is gonna be our layer. So I'm gonna use a base, this is dry on my mat here. I'm gonna use a base of Sahara sand, which is 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half. And then this was cut at, like I said, 5.25 by 4. So the first thing, I mean, you can decide which way you want your shells to go. Do you want them this way or do you want them this way? Whichever you like, whichever orientation you like also. Okay, so I'm gonna do mine sideways. And the first thing I wanted to do is just add, like our sample here, I'll bring that back. I just wanted to add a little bit of linen thread to that. So I'm just gonna wrap that around, probably, I don't know, maybe about, see how far this piece goes, maybe about 3 times, just sort of around the center. And then I will try to tie a bow, which is always a challenge. And I'm gonna do it towards the right because I wanna leave room for a greeting over there. So Whoops, let's see if I can get this. That's not too bad for a bow. All right, so let me just trim off these ends here. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of cross some of these strings because I kind of like how that looks, if I can. And just play with that a little bit, however much you like. Okay, so then we can put this on top of our base. So I'm just going to use our adhesive, our seal, our Stampin' Seal. And we will put that down on top, like so. Okay, so you can still see that nice shimmer. And then for my greeting, I did use one of the stamps in the stamp set, so there's some really cute ones. But I chose You Are Unique and Completely Amazing. So I pre-stamped that in our Misty Moonlight and cut this out with our Tasteful Label dies, and then I have a layer of Sahara Sand. So I'm just gonna layer those on top of each other. And we will pop this up with some dimensionals, of course. I think probably 4 is good. Okay, so let's put this here sort of to the left, or maybe a little more centered. Okay. And then I added another seashell. So what I did is I just took this stamp out of the stamp set. And if you'll notice, mine is sort of 2 colors. So that's a really easy way to get a bit of a different look to your seashells. I just stamped half of it in Sahara Sand, and the other half of the stamp I stamped in Seaside Spray. And it just sort of came out like that. And instead of using the die to cut these out, because it's a really large die, I just cut this out by hand with some scissors. And then I'm going to pop that up with some dimensionals as well. And put this on top of our greeting here. And then the last thing I added, I don't know if you can see these. These are our new opal rounds, and honestly, they do remind me of opals. They have a bit of iridescence to them that pick up different colors, and there are some different sizes. They're a little hard to tell if they are different, but I've concluded that they are different. So I'm just going to add a couple of those randomly, wherever you want, and they are self-adhesive, so just add a couple wherever you like. And once they're down, you can kind of see that they are picking up some of that blue that's underneath there. It's really quite neat. I might just put one here in the corner too, just for something a little different. And there is your card. So lots of sheen, lots of shimmer. You can see a little bit of color popping through those opal rounds, and a very simple sort of card, and a super simple technique that's a real kind of wow, I think. So before I go, I just wanted to quickly tell you how, and show you a couple of tips on how this die, the stamps, and the folder all kind of work together. So when you cut out your die, it's going to come out like this, okay? So you could easily, just see that on a card base, because it's about the perfect size to put on a card base, like so. But you probably want to jazz that up a little bit. So what you can do is take our embossing folder, the shell embossing folder, and slip your die cut piece inside, and amazingly, These were designed to match up exactly. So you can see right through the folder, and you're just going to position this die that you've cut out in those little shapes to line them up. Run this through your embossing folder, and it'll come out looking like this. So now you've got a little more dimension. You've got the pop-up dimension from that folder, and that gives it another look of interest, right? So that looks pretty cool on top of a base. Or another thing you could do is you could take a piece of the color that you want to use and stamp the individual shells. So for example, you would use this as a guide. Let me get back to that one. I just want to show you on this one. This makes more sense. So you would start out with a piece like this, your blank die, and then you could individually stamp your shells in their respective spots. So for example, this is a Seaside spray, and I stamped the shells also in Seaside spray. So I just did them individually, and because they're clear, they're photopolymer, you can see where you're stamping, and then they would come out like this, which also makes a neat background, because then you've got a little more of the dimension showing through. Now, if you wanted to take this another step, you could do up to the stamping, and then you could also insert this into your embossing folder, line it up exactly where the shells are, run that through your die cutting machine, and when that comes out, it'll look like this, but you'll have more dimension to it. It will have the pop-up. You may not see it on camera, but you can sure feel it. And that would give you another bit of dimension as well. So another way, if you don't want to stamp individually, is our Stamparatus. Now, this is a tool that I want to explore a little bit more with you guys, because I find I'm not using it as much as I should. And it's a really, really, really awesome tool that does a lot. So what you can do, and let me just see if I have a piece of paper around here. I might just have to grab a piece of paper. What you would do is you could take, there's two possibilities, all right? Where did my die go now that I've, I had my die, it's probably, here it is right on the bottom. Okay, there's two ways you can do this. Now, first of all, rule number one with a Stamparatus is do not put these magnets anywhere near each other, because they are so strong. They will stick and are very, very difficult to get apart, and you could possibly break them and cause severe injury to yourself by cutting yourself. So make sure that you keep those apart. And because this is a photopolymer set, we need to use this foam mat that comes with your Stamparatus. If you were using a rubber mount set, a clear mount cling set with rubber, you wouldn't need the pad. But because it's photopolymer, you do need your pad, very much like when we use our regular foam mat when we stamp with photopolymer. And then I just have a scrap piece of paper that we're going to put on top. Now there's two ways we can stamp with the Stamparatus. The first is, I did try to pull some of these stamps off here. Let me just see if I've got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I do have them all. There's 5, I think, that fit into the die, or am I missing one? That one. I'm missing the little guy. It's always the little guy that goes missing, isn't it? He probably got stuck to something. Yes, he did. I just found him. Okay, so there's two ways you could do this. You could cut your template, your die template like this, and you could place all of your stamps in their respective spot. Now, to remember, you want to lie them down so the flat part of the stamp is facing up, because that's what's going to stick to your stamp apparatus. So you could do it like this. Okay, just line these up. And then, let me just get this one put down here. And then put your magnets here on this die. And then close the cover, press down, and pull up your stamps. And then they should be in pretty much the same position as this. Now, sometimes this is a little bit flimsy and it does make your stamps move. So I'm just gonna grab a piece of paper here. Another alternative is just to use a scrap piece of paper, or sorry, the paper that you want to cut your die out of. So in this case, Seaside spray. And then what you could do is lie your die down. Oops, there's a little dimensional guy on there. You could lie your die down and you could fill it in the same way as you did with that template. So you could just fit it in like this. Like so. Put all your little pieces in here and try to make sure that they're, you know, in their proper place. Like this one shifted a bit. As best you can get them lined up, right? That one looks pretty good. So then you can add your magnets here. And press down. And then lift these up. Now also remember, your die will stick to your magnets too, so try to keep those away. All right, so then what you can do, now that your stamps are in place, I like to put an extra stamp set underneath here because it helps it from flopping and it's easier to ink up. So then you would just ink up your stamps. Whatever color. And then close the cover. Press down, and there are your images. So then what you could do is take your die, and sometimes I will admit there's a little bit of shifting that happens, but it should line up pretty close. There may be a little bit off in places, but you could then run this through your die cutting machine, and once it's run through, it would come out looking like this, pretty close. And then again, you could leave it like this, or you could run it through the embossing folder, but it's just a way that all of these pieces coordinate with one another. The dies coordinate with the embossing folder, the stamps work into the dies. So it's just amazing how Stampin' Up! Has got everything to coordinate. I just found that this was amazing. So I just want to show you one more quick sample that I did, which is this one. Now this one uses the same technique. I did this in, I believe this was the Seaside spray that I used. Seaside spray cardstock, and then I used the Frost White shimmer paint on there. And then all of these shells were stamped on the Pearlescent paper. So again, this new one. So they were all stamped in different colors. So I stamped, I believe, Flirty Flamingo and some of the Coastal Cabana, some of the Seaside Spray, and then I did a little bit of the greenery in there because there are some dies to cut out this greenery. And then instead of using a die, I did hand cut these out. But a word of warning is when you are stamping on that pearlescent paper, you can stamp on it, no problem. Just give your image time to dry. For some reason, it takes a little bit longer and you don't want to accidentally smudge your image. So give it some time to dry. And then after I cut them out, I don't know if you can tell, but I did run them through that embossing folder. And I just tacked these down with a little bit of washi tape inside the folder so that they wouldn't shift as I was running it through. And then this, I thought this was a perfect little greeting. Friends are like seashells, you collect them along the way. I thought that was just really cute, and then added a couple of the opals as well. So 2 different cards, 2 different looks, and using a really, really fun new technique. So I hope you'll give it a try. Let me know how you enjoy it. And if you require or would like to purchase any of these products, please visit my online store at christineludwig.stampinup.net. And don't forget, celebration promotion is on now through the end of February. So with every $60 purchase before shipping and GST, you can select a free item from our new celebration brochure. So have fun with that. Leave me a comment below. I'd like to see what you think about this technique, or if you've tried it, or if you'd like to send me a photo of any samples you've tried. I'd love to hear what you have to say. So I hope you enjoyed that project and that technique, and we will see you again next week. Have a great week. Bye for now.